is really expensive. Possible medical costs, lower quality of life, missed career or work opportunities, and lost income. Somebody asked me the other day that having worked in banking for as long as I did, what is the biggest financial regret that people often talk about? And interestingly, the answers are rarely about one specific stock or one thing they didn't do. Instead, they often have a handful of ordinary financial decisions that they could have easily made but didn't. And later in life, they realize just how huge an impact it's had on their future. And so in this video, I'm going to talk about the top financial decisions that many people will come to regret over the next decade if they do nothing about it today. The first regret is staying in a job that is underpaying you. Many people focus intensely on saving money, but they often forget the other side of the equation, which is increasing their income. Unless you were born into wealth, your income or your salary is going to be the biggest source of capital for your investments, which in turn will determine how soon or maybe how easily you can buy back your freedom from a 9-to-5 job. A $5,000 raise often has a bigger impact than endlessly cutting coffees or subscriptions or takeaway meals. Yet people stay in jobs that they outgrew years ago. And I get it. Sometimes it is comfort, sometimes it's the fear of moving to the next level, sometimes it's fear of the unknown, or maybe even fear of success. But here's the problem. If you are being underpaid for your skill or the value that you add, you are missing out on the incremental income or the earnings that can build your wealth faster. And so essentially, you are slowing down your journey towards retirement, or put another way, you are adding more years to your work life. Your salary compounds, and every year you remain significantly underpaid affects future raises, pension contributions, bonuses, and even investment opportunities. 10 years later, the costs can be very staggering. One of the biggest career regrets that people often talk about is the fear of not asking for a raise when it's justified, or simply not moving on sooner. The second regret is getting married, or choosing a partner whose financial vision is not aligned with yours. I bet you thought I was going to say getting married. No, getting married can be a wonderful thing. But here's the thing, this is one that is very uncomfortable to talk about, but it's one that I've seen far too often. And it may be one of the most important financial decisions you will ever make. I know people who hide their true finances from their spouses because of their spending behaviors. And I know of a few seemingly rich individuals who are in serious debt and their partners do not know the extent of it. Attraction, chemistry, shared interests and values, that's all great. But surprisingly, few couples have serious conversations about money before their lives become financially intertwined. Now, the problem isn't necessarily that one person earns more than the other. It's when a couple wants fundamentally different things from life. One person wants to retire early, the other wants to spend as they earn, and they want to live for today. One person dreams of financial freedom, the other dreams of a bigger house, a newer car, a more expensive lifestyle. One person sees investing as a priority, the other sees investing as something they can think about later. But here's the thing, neither person is necessarily wrong. But if you're rowing a boat in different or opposite directions, it's incredibly difficult to reach the same destination. And I've seen people spend years building wealth only to find themselves consistently fighting an uphill battle because their partner has a completely different financial outlook. And the reality is that money decisions will become shared decisions. Where you live, how much you save, whether you invest, how much debt you want to take on, how much you spend on your children, when you want to retire, and most importantly, the lifestyle you can afford. All of these become connected. And while love may not be a financial strategy, choosing a partner is one of the biggest financial decisions most people will ever make. But I'm very curious as to what you think about this. Do you think that one should disclose one's financial standing before marriage or to a potential partner? Do you think that finances should be combined in marriage, or do you think that talking about money is a little bit of a taboo? Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Moving on, the third regret is not controlling your financial bottleneck. So your financial bottleneck is anything that causes friction or works against your financial goals. For example, your spending triggers. A lot of people are emotional spenders like I used to be. I spent a lot of money, and I mean a lot of money, when the pandemic hit. And I was doing this to really take my mind off things and fill the connectivity gap that was created during that period. Have you ever ordered things and when the packages arrive, you're thinking, what's this? And then you remember, oh yes, I did order that. Well, that was me more times than I care to admit. The problem with not knowing or controlling your spending trigger is that in life, we will be triggered by events we cannot control. But here's the critical thing. We can control our responses to these events. But if you don't know what your spending trigger is, maybe stress, loneliness, heartbreak, frustration, or even loss, then you'll keep losing money to consumerism, which feels great in the moment when that dopamine hits, but can be very expensive later. 10 years from now, many people won't remember what they bought, but they will still be feeling the effects of the debt they're paying off or the thousands they could have saved and invested by that time. The fourth regret is waiting too long to start investing. Now, this is the grand champion of financial regrets. I hear this from people I engage with, and I've even read it from some of you lovely individuals in the comment section. I wish I started earlier. Many people assume that they will start investing when they earn more money or maybe pay off all of their debt. But that could be in 2 years from now, or maybe even 10 years from now. The important thing isn't how much money you start with, it's time. Now, did you know that waiting 10 years to start investing means that you will have to invest almost 2.5 times more of your money in order to accumulate the same size nest egg as someone who started 10 years earlier? And the gap is so massive because waiting impacts your wealth in two fundamental ways. The first way is lost principal. So in the case of waiting 10 years, you have 120 fewer months to contribute your own money. The second way is lost time in the market. So you lose the returns that your first 10 years of contributions would have generated. A person investing $300 per month at age 25 has a massive advantage over someone investing $600 per month starting at age 35. And this is because compound growth needs time to work. The painful truth is that many people don't realize this until much later in life. And by then, they are desperately trying to make up for lost years. If you're waiting for the perfect time to start investing, well, that's often the mistake you will regret the most. And if you are new to investing and would like to know where to start, I shared a video on investing for beginners and I will link it below. The fifth regret is buying a house or not figuring out in time what your housing profile is. Okay, so let me explain this one. For decades, buying a house has been presented as the ultimate financial milestone. You get a good job, you buy a house, you pay off the mortgage, and you live happily ever after. It's pretty straightforward, right? Well, except it's not that simple. A friend of mine who is a high-flying corporate lawyer bought a beautiful 4-bedroom grade 2 listed house years ago. And if you know anything about UK houses, you'll know that grade 1 and 2 listed buildings have significant historical importance and are therefore protected. It was a beautiful property. Fast forward to 2 weeks ago, she tells me she's selling her house and only just realized for the first time ever that she is better as a renter than a homeowner. She talked about how expensive it was to keep the house going and felt caged by her substantial mortgage. One of the biggest financial regrets over the next decades will easily come from people who bought a house because they thought it was the right thing to do. Not everyone should own a home, and that's okay. But what most people miss is figuring out on time what their housing profile is, an owner or a renter. Some people get convinced that if they never own their own home, somehow they failed. Home ownership can be fantastic, but it isn't automatically the best financial decision for everyone. I know a wealthy family who have never bought a residential home, not once, and that works beautifully for them. The person who wants flexibility, travels frequently, doesn't want to be tied by a mortgage like my friend, and may want to relocate in a few years could be better off renting. On the other hand, a person who plans to stay in the same location for the next decade, maybe values stability, could be better off buying. There are pros and cons attached to both. But remember, your housing profile is a personal choice. So please don't make the choice based on what people think you should do. The sixth regret will be ignoring your health. Okay, so maybe this sounds more like a health decision rather than a financial decision, but it's really both. Poor health is really expensive. You will experience reduced productivity, possible medical costs, lower quality of life, missed career or work opportunities, and lost income. Money is wonderful, and the Bible does say that money answereth all things. But the problem is, many people pursue money at the expense of sleep, exercise, healthy living, only to spend money later trying to recover their health. Research has consistently shown that health is one of the strongest predictors of long-term happiness and retirement satisfaction. Our bodies are our most valuable asset, so let's try to treat them accordingly. The seventh regret is living without a financial parachute, or what I'd like to call a freedom fund. So think about what a parachute does. It saves a life and also gives a soft landing. The older we get, the more responsibility we have. And in some cases, the more we have to lose if we have family or people who rely on us. Life doesn't send calendar invitations for events. The boiler breaks, you lose your job, the car is written off, or a family member gets sick. Unexpected expenses aren't unusual, they're almost guaranteed. And yet, millions of people unfortunately have little to no emergency savings. And when emergencies happen, they often turn to credit cards. 43% of Americans can't afford a $1,000 emergency, and 24% of working adults in the UK have no emergency savings at all, and about 34% have less than £500 in savings. I mean, these numbers are really disturbing. Having a freedom fund or an emergency fund is a recommendation because it really can create a buffer between life surprises and financial disaster. You will never regret having cash reserves, but you'll almost certainly regret not having it when you need it. One of the most common financial regrets reported in surveys is putting off retirement savings. Retirement feels distant when you are 29, less distant when you're 40, and terrifyingly close when you're 55. The challenge for most people is that retirement planning has a delayed feedback loop. You don't immediately feel the consequences of neglecting it until suddenly you do. And sadly, at this point, your options become limited. People often underestimate how long they'll live and how much they'll need. I say this a lot. Just start. Start planning towards retirement, because starting imperfectly is infinitely better than starting late. Now, if there's one message I hope you take from this video, it's this. Financial regrets rarely come from one catastrophic decision. Some of these regrets may seem inconsequential when you're in your 20s, but they are small decisions that compound quietly over time. And before you know it, the consequences have become impossible to ignore. You don't have to make lots of changes all at once. You just need to start making slightly better decisions today than you did yesterday. And this is precisely how I got started. And decades later, it's all paid off. I'll see you in the next video. Look after yourselves. Bye for now.